Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here, Morten. Nice to see so many interesting people. It was a nice evening last night. And thank you for everyone for showing interest in what I'm going to speak about today. So, first of all, in the raise of hand, who in the room have ever experienced an earthquake? Oh, there is something going in this part of the room. I want to be here. Okay. So in the coming 30 minutes, I'm trying to talk about how a conflict between people and the planet, also known as an earthquake, can be a bridge to solve other conflicts between humans. And I think Morten gave a quick introduction. So let me start with covering a few details about myself. So first of all, I'm working for HP Indigo for the last 15, 17 years. And my current role, I'm heading the R&D organization, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But I also have another life, which is, as Morten already explained, I'm serving as a lieutenant colonel in the IDF, in the Israeli army. And in the time of no war, I'm trying to save people mostly around the globe. And I'll try to show how those two roles in my life are merged and interact. I also married, have 3 lovely daughters, and being a father to only daughters created another interesting path in my life. They are all teenagers now, by the way, ranging for almost 18 to 12, but the one that is 12 is behaving like she's 18, and the one that okay, you know the story. But actually, it makes me more sensitive and aware to how young ladies progress in our society. But this is a different story. A few interesting or more interesting topics. You see that I try to practice my body once in a while. It's very hard when you travel. But I travel a lot. I also travel for pleasure. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So just to give you a sense about my, let's call it, if I see myself as a father, as a R&D person, as a lifesaver. So my first role, or my second role, I would say, is leading this amazing team. So for every one of you that visit Drupa this year, most of what you saw on the floor coming from HP is actually was designed and innovated by a very nice team, mostly in Israel, about 900 different engineers, scientists, physicists, chemists, mechanical engineers, software engineers, whatever you can imagine. This is not an Israel-based only team, but mostly in Israel. We also have some people in Spain, in Barcelona, and in the US, mostly in Boise and San Diego. And what you see on the picture actually is our launch of the HP Indigo V12, I think taken in Chicago 2 years ago. And some of the faces that are in the picture are all also here in the crowd. So amazing team that actually went through a very hard time this year during the war. We had about 15% of our team going in and out to the army, which is not easy. And this is my other team. On my bipolar roles, This is my army team. It's called, also known as the Israeli Search and Rescue Unit, established on the 80s. It doesn't say here, but we are about 300 people. And our main objective is urban search and rescue, but we do other things. But most of them, or the one theme that is like streamlined throughout the roles, is that we are working to save people. Most of them actually not our Israeli people, for most cases. So the unit was deployed more than 40 times in the last 20, 30 years when I'm in there. Most of them are out of the country. I had the chance to be in Nepal, in the Philippines, in Haiti, in Kenya, in Turkey, more than once, and in many other places to try and save lives. Maybe just another highlight here is that most of us in the unit, we usually have our own life, but if we have a mission at Israel, usually we are called in 3 hours. So once we were called, 3 hours on duty. If we need to go abroad, usually 6 hours. And then we are ready in the airport. So you can imagine your life when, usually those things are not very planned, as you can imagine, right? It's earthquakes, etc., not very planned. So you are being called. 6 hours later, you are on a flight to some disaster area. My daughter are less appreciative of this thing. And let me take you to 6th of February, 2023. There was a major earthquake hitting several areas in Turkey. And as you see, the most problematic earthquakes take place in the middle of the night. And you can imagine why, right? Most of us are in our beds. Most of us are in our homes. We are not alerted. We can't evacuate. And this is the most deadly situation for earthquake. So as you see, the time of the day that this took place is the worst. A little bit later than 3 a.m. in the morning. And it hit bad. We were alerted a few hours later, as you can see, around morning time. And 2 a.m., the day after the earthquake, we were already pulling people under the rubble. So going 600 kilometers away, I can tell you that while Turkey is not so far from Israel, it was a hell of a journey. Our planes, we were traveling over 3 different planes, one man carrier and 2 equipment carriers. They were flying for 4 hours above Turkey, trying to get a runway to go down. So we were going up fast, circling for a few hours, and then when we hit the ground, it took us a few more hours to travel a distance of about 200 kilometers with all our equipment and people. And you can imagine what happened in a country that was hit by an earthquake, or you can't, but I will tell you, it's bad. The roads are blocked. People look for shelter. They don't really care that you are trying to get to the damaged area. They are trying to save their lives, their families, and you have a different vector in your life, right? You are trying to get to a place that you can actually help. So I can also maybe highlight another thing that was especially challenging in this mission, which was the temperature. As Israelis, I feel comfortable in 30 degrees C. This is my comfort zone. Yeah, I know that in Utah, yeah, I know. Utah is also good, yeah, I know. So this was a sub-zero operation when eventually, when you are outside for a few days, there is no shelter, right? All you have is your tents. After a few days, your body temperature start to go down to a certain point that, and I can say probably half of my team came back with like a nerve injuries after spending so much time in low temperature without giving up, right? You can't stop to heat up for a while. So this was a challenging task, and I like to talk about the conflict, because up until now I was talking about the conflict between the human and the earth, and now let's talk about the conflict between Israel and Turkey. So on the slide you can see, I would call it the milestones or roller coaster of our relationship with our neighbor. It's not a borderline neighbor, just a little bit farther away. But as you can see, the relationship between Israel and Turkey went up and down. In the 90s, Turkey probably was one of the most desirable destinations for vacations, for merchandise, for many things for the Israeli people. Multiple flights a day, etc., etc. Personally, I didn't mention that, on 1999, there was another earthquake in Turkey. Actually, there was two. And as a young soldier, I was deployed into Turkey for my first time on this year. And as you can see, there was an escalation also in the relationship, up to a point that the support that Turkey provide, in their view, to the Palestinians in Israel raised to a boiling point where few, let's call them freedom fighters from Turkey, were killed on a ship by the Israeli Navy SEALs. This took the relationship to a very, very sensitive and almost explosion point. And this was 2003. And as you can see that it took us about 10, maybe a little bit more, like almost 13 years to create some kind of reconciliation or bringing back the relationship. But it started to become positive. And as you can see this sign going up. So we go up with the relationship, and then there was another earthquake, which brings us to my earlier story. And if you would ask me as a young soldier down in 1999, looking on 2003, on what happened, whether I would go again to this country, to those people that probably don't like me, to save life again, probably I would say no, to be honest. But on 2023, when I was called, actually I didn't thought for a second. I went in and I found myself after a few hours in Turkey. And I will give you some more stories about that. But if you look, 8 months later, from February to October 7th, Turkey immediately took the side of the people that attacked us. Immediately, we had almost zero credit. And to add on that, I was on I think it was like probably April or May 2023, I was going to receive a medal from the head of the government in Turkey, Erdogan. Medal for saving lives in Turkey. It took them, I don't know, one day to decide that they take our attacker side. So then again, the roller coaster go down again. And I kept my blue text there, So we don't know what will happen in the future, right? So we hope that they won't have any more earthquakes and that we will build our relationship again. But in a way, it illustrates how, conflicts can go up and down, and humans can help to solve them, but they can also make them worse. At the given of, as Morten said, an edge in what we are experiencing. Okay, and I want to give you another view on a conflict. So if the first one was a global conflict, this is a micro conflict, but it's one of the hardest that I personally experienced. So one of the rescue operations that my team ran in Turkey was a couple, a man and a woman, that was captured under the rubble. We identified them with our sniffing dogs. Both were alive, communicating, captured under the rubble in -4 degrees C for about 48, maybe a little bit more hours. And after working for a few hours to try to extract them, we learned that there were one blocking the other. So the man was blocking his wife. Blocking, I mean, we couldn't access her. And the unfortunate situation was that he was captured under the rubble in a way that we couldn't get him out. We just couldn't. And I had one of my, 20 years of experience with that. My very big dilemma was to take off part of his leg to release him and to save his wife. And I basically in those seconds your loneliness is in its peak, right? No one wants to share this decision. So I brought on 3 of my doctors, tried to do some brainstorming, and asked them whether they can run this operation and whether we have all the tools, etc. And try to hear them something against it that will take me down from this decision, but they didn't give me any excuses. So we needed to proceed with that. And this is what we did. And it took us a few hours, and we ran a surgery on the field. And eventually, we did the surgery. We were able to take this person out and get an access to his wife. Unfortunately, on the way to the hospital, this person died. And my doctors were devastated. Of course, they took all the blame to themselves, but he was in a very bad condition. And the happy part of it is that we did manage to save his wife, because once we took him out, we had an access to her. And few hours after we will start walking and try to take her out, we discover that part of her leg is under another piece of rubble. And I was saying to myself, not again, right? I'm not doing it again. And luckily, we were able to take her out without running this operation again. And it was a huge relief. It was a huge relief, but nevertheless, all this, and you see in the right picture, this is the smaller team out of the bigger team that was working with me on this situation. As you can imagine, we have lessons that we will never forget. And I can say that on top of this conflict, there was a greater one or the crowd around us that couldn't really understand what we are doing. And managing this situation and take decision in this situation is very hard. And it teaches you a lot about conflicts and about decision making and responsibilities to the decision that you take. So I do like to say that overall, this was it wasn't just an Israeli operation. There was teams from more than 30 countries working with us, shoulder to shoulder, hand to hand. And together we were able to save about 170 people under the rubble. People that were buried, and if we were not coming to save them, they would stay there to die, which is significant number. You can see the split. I do take pride in the fact that we were able to save many people as a small country, as a small team, relatively. And I'm going to highlight in a few seconds why I think we were able to do that. But nevertheless, you see the numbers, right? A team of 100 or so people were able to save about 20 people, which is, to me, actually, it's a very good ratio. From my experience, usually it's much less. So I like to, in a way, to connect my two roles to the last, experience that I just covered, and highlight 5 or 6 areas of merit that I think that work for me on both areas. So first one, if you know your North Star, if you know what you are trying to achieve, usually things are easier. When you know that you like to save life, it's easier to take decision. On my other role, when you know where your industry is heading and you know what you want to achieve, it is easier to take decisions. So when your North Star is clear, everything is easier. And the second thing, which might be surprising for an R&D person, but determination and perseverance are key. Not only in search and rescue missions, but also when you are developing new products, when you are coming with innovation. The innovation part is that small. The hard work that is coming afterwards is what makes you successful. It's not the brilliant idea. And the next thing is timing. So I was talking about the ratio, right? 150 rescue people save about 20 people. The main reason beside determination is time. People survive under the rubble is an exponential decreasing function. 24 hours, the highest chances. 48, decrease. And so on. So timing is everything. Same goes for our industry. If you bring the right product at the wrong time, you are done. If you hit it at the right time, you are the king. So timing is everything. And another thing that I learned, which I shared on both roles, is that you can't plan for 100%. It never works. You need always to be able to improvise, to save some buffer, and to have some slack in your plans. Otherwise, something goes wrong and you don't know what to do. Your planes stay in the air for 4 hours and you are stuck. What do you do? So, and this is true also for my day-to-day work. We have, in HP, we have great plans, timelines, budgets. Eventually, if you can't react and you can't do the extra on those 20%, you are in a big problem. And one interesting thing is, I call it the sleepless nights. At the operation in Turkey, basically, we went from the plane to the ground non-stop. And we didn't stop for probably 48 hours for the people that just step out of the plane, because timing is everything. So sleepless nights are also helpful in the lab. For some people here know my journey with the V12, the HP Indigo V12, which is my latest baby. We couldn't make it without sleepless nights at the lab. Sometimes there are things that happen just in the middle of the night. Problems that are waiting to be solved in the middle of the night. I don't know why. This is how it goes. 3 a.m., it's solved. But this is my lesson. And the last one maybe is that I'm standing here, but as you can understand, I'm talking in the names of many. Many, which is my greater team in HP, amazing people. Many, the people that travel with me around the globe and help me, or I help them to save people. And many, my, I will say it in a humble way, my fellow Israelis in the country. And it's take a village. And maybe just two pictures that can, you can see me in both extreme cases. Maybe on, as I said, my new baby on the right. And this is coming from a mission in Turkey. After many sleepless nights, low temperature. Yeah, I had better days, I need to say. So, maybe last thing, what I like to leave you with. And continue Morten's point earlier. So you can think that if this is what we do for our neighbors, which are not always very happy with us, you can wonder what would we do for 100 brothers and sisters that we have in Gaza, under the ground, waiting for us. Thank you.